Welcome back. I've got Pushkar Anand online. Pushkar, how are you?
Very well, Michael, very well, and delighted to be here.
Really happy you're here, and you do some absolutely amazing work. And when you had your first interview was Jack Canfield. It's all downhill from there. But I say that tongue in cheek. I know you've been on some great shows. I've listened to several of your interviews, but I want you to share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Please, thank you. So, should I talk about myself a little bit?
Of course.
Excellent, good. Well, I'd call myself a philosopher, a seeker, an author, a speaker. A 15-year journey is what I went through as I got down to writing my book. That 15-year journey saw me get through some 500 plus books. I went to more than 30 seminars, workshops, immersive learning experiences, and I trained 4 years with my dear teacher, Blaine Bartlett, whom I call Grandmaster B Square. At the end of these 15 years, Michael, I think I was a different person altogether. The person who started out at the start of these 15 years was a young banker who's trying to find that foolproof formula for success. The man who came out on the other side 15 years later was older, absolutely, but that person wanted to live his purpose, which was to uplift humanity and help everyone I interact with, empower them to become the person they always meant to be. And that was my transformation and my metamorphosis over 15 years.
It's a beautiful journey, and I'm thrilled. I know this is going to sound a little weird, but I'm thrilled that you became a different person. Now, I didn't know you, at the beginning of the 15-year journey, and I'm guessing you look back at that person and you go, "Well, I know them because that was me," but there's so many things that I don't recognize about myself now because you've grown, you've learned, you talk about immersion. That's a lot of books and a lot of conferences and learning and learning, and you were just absorbing all of that. And the beautiful thing is when you set out with the intention to learn and grow and understand, it's almost impossible for you not to grow and evolve and change and do all kinds of different things. And that's the beauty of it, because a lot of people will go on a journey and then okay, I got here, and they didn't really do anything other than just kind of go along with the flow of things, and they didn't really want to kind of stop and take it all in. But you obviously invested yourself in, and I guess going back to when you first embarked on that, did you anticipate it being a 15-year journey, or did you say, okay, I'm just going to start reading these books and going to these conferences and see what happened? I mean, what was your thought process like in those early days in that first, that 15-year journey?
And that's the crux of the issue. I think you've hit the nail on the head, Michael. When I started out on this journey, the intention wasn't to write a book. The intention was to understand, as a, I'd say, hugely outward focused human being, just over the age of 30 or thereabouts, who's out looking for what is it that I need to do to be super successful in life? What is it that I need to do to find that foolproof formula for success? And this was in the back of the 2008 financial crisis. And when this started, I went back to the usual suspects, the evergreen ageless classics, Science of Getting Rich, Wattles, Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill, Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind, Al Quran, those kind of books. And as I started out, Michael, there was interest. That interest over the years became a hobby. And three people who influenced me very much were the three legends, as I call them, as Messrs. Dyer, Proctor, and Canfield. There's Jack, Bob, and Wayne. The amount I learned from them was got to a point where it was starting to get uncanny. And it was one of these seminars in 2015 where I bumped into this wonderful man called Blaine Bartlett, who's in his own right a global authority on the intersection of spirituality, business, and leadership. And as we worked together over the years, that's when this transformation went to the next level. As when I said to him in 2020, when I was seeing COVID and people dying all around me, and It's over those years that I said, well, what am I after? I'm looking for that foolproof formula for success, which is out there. What about my purpose, which is in here? And at the end of it, and bang in the middle of COVID, I remember thinking to myself, and I spoke to Blaine as well. I said, there's so much I've learned. At that point in time, I think it was closer to 12 years. How do I get it out and share with other people who are on the same journey? And we felt the best thing to do is to write a book. But as we got down to thinking about that, and I discussed with my wife as well, and I started writing, it wasn't just a book. This thing metamorphosed into a global project, Michael, a project which put me on the path to say, I want to go out there and uplift humanity. I want to empower everyone I meet to become the person they always meant to be. And all that I've been through are 12 years at that point, which ended up being 15 when we published. I want people to do that journey in 15 months, in 1 year, in 9 months. Why should anyone have to go through it or a decade and a half when all that I went through is put together in a methodical, structured way with real life examples of people who transformed and metamorphosed? Why can't they do it quicker? And that was the intention, the feeling in my heart as I poured out the book.
I love that you've shortened it for us, because 15 years, well, 15 years goes by quickly because I remember 15 years ago and I look back now and I go, wow, there's a lot that's transpired, but it still amazes me that time is passing by as quickly as it is. But, the beautiful thing, and I love the title of the book, and, it's Manifest Your Infinite Riches. And I think the thing that jumped out at me, especially when you were talking just a moment ago about, manifesting, your infinite riches, it ties into your purpose. And you alluded to it a moment ago where you said so many of us, and you included, as you just said, we're looking for this external thing to, really, be successful, grow, wanting to help people. That I think has been a theme with you from the get-go. But from understanding what your purpose is literally pouring, gasoline or fire on gasoline, or vice versa, I should say, because what that does is when you find your purpose and you really hone into that, then everything that you've wanted to be comes out, and it just magnifies things and it helps others find their own dreams and desires. And I had this conversation earlier today on another episode where, we were talking, it was actually regarding an organization that is a matchmaking service. So they match
Mm.
people up that want to date with each other. And same kind of thing where, and I love your thoughts on this. It's amazing how few of us really understand ourselves. Not only do we not know what our purpose is in many cases, is we're just kind of aimlessly going through things and looking for those external validations and those external things. And when someday comes, then this and this and this will happen. When we're ignoring our great self, and if we focus on our purpose and what we're supposed to do and why we are here, a lot of those issues go away because we're so honed in on what we're actually designed to do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely, and that's also one of the core themes of the book, Michael. And it goes beyond. Purpose is a core part of it, but it goes beyond. So, see, I start the book with these words, and these are my favorite words: that yes, you are infinitely rich. You are infinitely rich because you are you. And this is an invaluable, ageless truth. However, this process called living takes us away from this truth. And that's the gap I try to bridge. And what I say is that we have a tried and tested formula to put in front of you, which helps you become the person you always meant to be. And to become the person you always meant to be, in other words, means you're living that purpose which was inside of you, and the money chases you. The perfect way for all of us to live is to do what we absolutely love to do and get paid for it in a way that we don't need to worry about the money. The money chases us. So the concept of time dissipates, goes away, because you're so engrossed and in love with what you're doing. And you don't need to fret about the money because that chases you. And this is such a core theme in the work. I use the term manifest in the title, but it's so much more than that. We're talking about those infinite riches in there, bring them out, evolve to become the person you always meant to be. We use a term called dharma here, which takes it way beyond, just an airy fairy purpose. We think of dharma as that unique talent or that unique gift or that special ability which is inside of you, that you make that your everyday activity or vocation, such that you benefit everyone you come across in the process. It's what Wattles used to say, the impression of increase. You're bringing about an impression of increase for everybody you touch because you're on such a high vibration of living your purpose that you're benefiting humanity and uplifting it, and the money chases you. We can go deeper into it, but this whole money purpose connection here and how it comes together is invaluably invaluable, for want of a better expression.
I love how you said that because one of the things, and I know that I had role models in my parents that walked this type of walk where to be as present and focus on what your purpose is and your calling is, and live your best life the best you can be. When you encounter people that are not having a good day, or maybe life is really challenging for them, you provide them this, I don't know, presence, and all of a sudden they just naturally start feeling better. They maybe they regain a little bit of confidence or a little bit of hope in what's going on. And we know, ever since humanity, we've always had challenging times, and we could, focus on kind of the present moment where the last 5 years have been challenging for pretty much all of us, whether it's the pandemic, global strife, cost of things, wars, there's never a shortage of things that happen externally in the world that can have an impact on us. But when, again, you're focused on your purpose, it's not that you're ignoring those things, they exist, but you're so in tune with what you are, quite frankly, that people just, not only is money chasing you, but I think people do too, because they're like, what's different about him? Why or her? Why are they not, they don't seem to be impacted by what's going on in the world. And I know that they're not, taking any weird medications or drugs, or, not, drinking all the time. They seem to be just, fully present with it. And people look at that and they want a taste of it, and they go, what is that? And it's like, well, you look within. The answers are within. And that's the biggest non secret, but for a lot of people it certainly seems like it's a secret. They think that the external validation and things external is what's going to make their lives better, but it's all within.
Yes, you absolutely right, Michael. The answer to these questions is absolutely within, and there are no two ways about it. The whole process of evolution, of transformation, is that journey within, right? It's we talk about this line. It's journey within. It's a life reimagined. And let's really understand this and break it up. Where do we start from? We start from who we want to be. We start from how we can leave every human being we interact with, as Wattle said, with the impression of increase. We start with What is my purpose? We start with, how much money do I want against my name? You see, Michael, when you're living your purpose, when you know who's the person you want to be, when you know what is it that you love to do so you can leave every human being you meet with an impression of increase, the money starts to come after you. There's a time gap, there's a transition, absolutely. But it's really important that you pen down what is the amount of money you want against your name, and then you forget about it. Boom. Don't go back to it. Don't chase it. You want 100 million? Put 100 million down. My net worth is 100 million. Go about your daily life as though you already are a centenary millionaire. It's not something you want out there. Put yourself in the vibration that you already are, and the world around you will start to adjust itself, to align itself with the vibration you're on. I'll give you a very, very simple example for the benefit of all of our listeners. And years ago, when I finished the book, I had no idea about this concept of podcasts. And I couldn't at that point even think I'd be sitting and having these conversations. But I was on the vibration of wanting to spread my message to 4 million people at a certain point next year and 100 million certain number of years later. And I went with the assumption that that is already happening. Parts of that have already happened. As I put myself in that vibration, these things started to come up. You see, that all of us human beings, we have multiple levels of frequencies we can tune into. It's literally as simple as that. The innumerable multiple frequencies, each one a slightly higher level above the other one lower. So if we're going for a certain frequency, we're going for a certain level of vibration, if we want to become a certain person, you'll get there gradually. You'll start getting closer to it as you start taking what I call ongoing guided action. We talked about Jack earlier, and we laughed about this and we were chatting that he's used a term called inspired action apparently for 40 years. And I've been talking about this thing called ongoing guided action. But either way, it's the same thing. It's what you call inspired from within to do certain things, not externally focused. It comes from within and you take the steps. And that is the cycle we need to get into. Look within, get answers to those questions, all of which I think is fairly detailed in the work we do, and start taking ongoing guided action or inspired action. And your frequency starts to go up, 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 and up gradually. And you get to the point that you have to. It doesn't happen overnight because in planet Earth, the way vibrations work, it's in this realm, it's not going to happen instantly. It takes time to bring about those changes. In a different realm, it does happen instantly, but we're not going to go into that, delve into that at this stage. But I hope this gives a bit of perspective around the wider theme of looking within and how we can get into that evolutionary or transformative metamorphical journey.
Well, it makes sense. And I often reflect on whenever you want something to be different in your life or improvement, or whether it's financial or relationships or opportunities, a lot of it is like a garden. You plant the seeds, but then you have to do some things with it to allow the seeds to grow and to evolve into what you want. There's adjustments, there's ups and downs, there's, weather patterns and things like that. So it's not an instant situation. And I think that people that can, learn, and I love the analogy you gave a moment ago. It's like, okay, I am worth, $100 million. Okay, you write it down and then you put it away. You don't post it on your mirror. I mean, put it in your top drawer, your dresser or bottom drawer, or wherever you don't look hardly at all. Just write it down, put it away, forget about it, and go about your business. And with and believe it is so. It's not I am, not I want to be. I am. Words are powerful, and the words we say to ourselves are extremely powerful. And there's an internet meme. I think, I don't know if Bruce Lee actually said it or not, Well, yeah, but it was a quote that basically said, "Never, ever, ever talk down about yourself. Don't mock yourself. Don't diminish yourself. Uplift yourself. You are amazing, awesome, incredible. Statistically impossible that we actually exist based on science and things like that. It's like, the what has to happen in order for us to become a human being. You go on the odds and you're like, I have a better chance of winning the lottery than actually becoming a human being. And guess what? Here we are. And let's not diminish that. And that's the beautiful thing on that. So one of the things, that, jumped out at me too, as before we wrap up, that's, highlighted in your work in your book. And I'm curious about it. It's like you refer to the six statutes of money, and I'm familiar with some of them, but in the next 10 minutes or so, feel free, however you'd like to kind of flush those out a little bit, and just kind of the concept behind it, coupled with what we've been talking about today, because I don't want to isolate it, because it's all
Yeah.
part of the infinite riches. But I know that's one of those things that I think people would be curious about.
No, absolutely, and there's a huge difference here, Michael, in two simple terms, that we're all infinitely rich, and I say that, and I will keep saying it till my last day on planet Earth. But just because we're a bit tight with the cash flow a certain week or a certain month or even a certain year doesn't take those infinite riches away, right? And those riches go a lot beyond monetary value. Now, I absolutely love this topic. It is a trademark concept, and every time I have this conversation, whether it's an interview, podcast, or social setting, or even if it's my wife, I start with saying that, look, you in everyday parlance, in everyday language conversation, you have a chat and say, why does somebody have so much money, or why is somebody so wealthy? And 9.9 times out of 10, the answer you'll get from the other side is, well, that person was born in a wealthy family. That person went to Harvard. That person is hugely intelligent. Look at the family wealth. It's just part of it. And my answer to that is that all of those are incorrect. None of those assumptions holds true. And the reason for that, Michael, is if those were true, then everybody who went to Harvard or Oxford would have the same amount of wealth. That's never the case. The same class has different variances. You have siblings with different amounts. You have wealthy people and poor people in every country in the world, whether it's the highest GDP country or the poorest country. So obviously, it's got nothing to do with any of these, because if it were, these realities wouldn't exist. It's got to do with one thing, Michael, and only one thing, which is your vibrational frequency alignment with this thing called money. That's it. If that's at 100 million, you're worth 100 million. If that's at a million, you're worth a million. If that's at a billion, you're worth a billion. There is nothing more to it. But how do you get to that level of vibrational frequency alignment with money? That needs study, research, and work. And that's one of the key themes of my 15 years. So when I discovered all of those, as the process of writing, I initially called it the rules or something. And then I said, no, this is so much beyond rules. I came up with these, I wouldn't say came up, I articulated or philosophized these six statutes. And anyone, and I mean absolutely anyone who can master these, will have the amount of money he or she wants against his or her name, subject to living your purpose. So you live your purpose, you sort out a relationship with money, and it chases you. Now, I'll touch upon a couple of statutes, and one of them is around the fact that there's no quantum of money defined by universal spirit or God, which is big or small. And a simple analogy I use is, if there's the richest, the wealthiest human being in the world, say the net worth is $250 billion, and that person has their heart really set, Michael, in this big project where the investment is $257 billion. In the bidding process, the government of a certain country wins, this person doesn't. Isn't that person poor from that perspective? Right? We make $250 billion look small. On the other hand, there could be somebody who's living a hermit kind of life, who needs two square meals a day, and the person has a small source of income of, say, let's take an arbitrary number, say $500 a month. There's a small family home down the generations. The person gets by on $300. Suddenly, that person is wealthy. So you see, there isn't an absolute. We give it that label. A force bigger than us doesn't. And if people can really understand that and make that a way of life and change what is inside them, which in other words is defined as a pattern in the subconscious mind. The pattern in the subconscious mind determines the vibrational frequency. The vibrational frequency you're on determines your results. And your results are nothing but another word for the word manifest. And I hope that resonates to an extent, because that's just one of the six statutes, and we could be chatting, the next 3 hours talking about the other five. I even created a program on the six statutes of money. It's an idea I just absolutely love, and I think humanity needs that as much as it needs direction to find its purpose.
Well, spoiler alert for the other five, please go buy Pushkar's book because it's amazing. And it when you get these, I don't want to use necessarily breakthrough is the word I want to use, but when you really get an understanding from within your purpose, it changes so much. And everything tastes better. And I'm not talking about you able to afford the fine meals. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But even if you're eating something that is, would be deemed expensive to eat or make at home, you start tasting things. Life tastes better and you feel better and everything around you improves. So Pushkar, I've loved this conversation. Yeah, I could talk with you for days and days on end on all of this, but where can people find out more about you, the book, and everything else you're doing?
Well, there's a little website we have. It's called Pushkar Anand's World. So that's PUSHKAR ANANDS world.com. And we have everything there, Michael. We have the social media handles, they're there on every page in the footer. We have a link to the book. Depending on the country you're in, it takes you there. We have loads of free content, videos I've shot in this studio, which people generally seem to like. And we have paid programs as well, but I've priced them exceedingly, I wouldn't use the word competitive, but in an affordable way. And these are brief programs between, they're all 20, 30 minutes. The money one goes on to an hour because that is our flagship program. Blaine Bartlett, Grandmaster B Square, has joined me on a couple of modules there. So, and then we have blogs and, all kinds of things. If people want to work one-to-one, there's a small number of places there. It's a whole, it's what we call the website and the Center for Infinite Riches, which is there. We call it a movement. It's best defined as a movement which is out there to empower everyone it touches to become the person they're always meant to be. So I'd say the website's the best place, to find your way there.
Awesome. And I'll definitely have all that in the show notes. So Pushkar, thank you again for being you and for this amazing life-changing work that you've done for so many people. Really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I feel blessed to be here and I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much.